Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 2, Episode number 14 of The Music Spring. This is the 30th of July, 2014. Please let me welcome your host, Lisa Farr.
Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Music Spring. Today we're going to be talking about social media and how we make that work for our music business. This is not going to be a discussion about how we set up Facebook pages or Twitter accounts or should I use Pinterest or not. This is going quite much deeper into the whole social media conversation. We're going to be talking about how do we actually make it work? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better? And joining me today, we have Carlos Castillo from Utah.
That's
hey,
right.
Carlos.
Hey.
And we have Jake Challoner from Sydney. Hey, Jake.
Hey, Lee.
We're going to start with you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the whole Jaden Social thing and what you guys do and Social Family Group?
Sure. Jaden Social is a digital and social media marketing agency. We work in the vertical of music and entertainment. We do a little bit of brand, but mostly music. So record companies and artists will come to us to build campaigns and execute campaigns using the digital space, social media, particularly around releases and tours, etc. So we kind of live and breathe all things social, and there's a couple of other areas to our business as well, independent record label, and a management company, etc. But our main focus is Jaden Social.
Awesome. And how about you, Carlos? Why don't you give us a rundown on what you do?
Sure, yeah. Basically, at Truly Family Musicians, what I do is build websites for musicians and help them develop their online strategies. And a big part of how we achieve that is we've built a community of independent musicians from all over the world that interacts online and on social media, sharing ideas and helping each other figure out this new monster of social media and really use it to the advantage of the musicians to widen their fan base and sell more music.
Awesome. So when we look at this whole thing that social media is and music entrepreneurship, it's the idea that we're businesses, we're small businesses, we're entrepreneurs trying to figure out how to have a lifestyle that is focused around music. And the way that I view it in the approach to my music business is the idea that we need to find the people who will engage with our brand, build relationships with them, and then translate that into people who want to further support us and buy our music and support our brand financially. And this discussion is about how we use social media as part of our toolkit to do that. So, Jake, I'm going to start with you, and I want to know, as far as how you guys approach social media, what's the point of it?
Look, the point really is to build an engaged audience that is going to stay with the artist throughout their career, regardless of what point they're at, I suppose. You hear so much about content and all these things you should be doing and need to be doing and probably, hopefully, want to be doing. But when you really break it down, it's really about relationships. And they've never been more important. And social media has given artists the ability to have that direct relationship with their fans. So social, for me personally, is about bringing together your fans and engaging with them and nurturing that relationship and having a conversation with those fans and, I suppose, creating value.
I'm seeing a lot of artists having the mindset that social media is a selling tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while it is a selling tool, I'm not quite sure that artists are realizing that that's just one element of the point of social media. Carlos, what are artists doing wrong with social media?
Where do I start with that, really? Just to kind of reiterate as to what the point of the whole thing is that it's a place where you can start conversations and build relationships with your fans. Of course, kind of as we hit on in the beginning, you have to run your music as a business. So the end point is sales. But there's a few steps in between starting that relationship and making those sales, and that's what you can do with social media. It basically extends the pre- and post-show mingling that you do with your fans that really gets them over to the merch booth. And so it's all about, taking your time and building that relationship, and then you can get to the sell. So ultimately, it's part of the business strategy, but what you're doing there is you're making friends.
Mm. One thing that I'm seeing, even through the Music Spring Twitter account, we're going through a campaign at the moment, and Jaden Social are actually helping us with that. And it's really interesting because we're building that following right now, and I've got to say 90% of the artists who we follow and they follow us back on the Music Spring, 90% of artists are coming back to us saying, have a listen to my new single. Here's the latest free download of my song. It's like meeting someone and jumping straight into bed with them. There needs to be some sort of a romance that's going on there, and I wonder if as an industry we're shooting ourselves in the foot by making those. I guess by not having the romance. Jake, what do you think about that kind of approach that artists are taking?
The romance, I call it the dance, but I like the romance better. But it's really important. It is. I kind of liken it to door-to-door sales. When you follow someone on Twitter and they hit you up straight away and say, check out my whatever it is, music, etc. And there's no romance taking place. The first thing I do is just ignore it. I'm getting so many of those types of interactions on Twitter, and quite frankly, they're not going to get anywhere. It's a complete waste of time. You have to do the dance. You have to do the romance. You have to get to know each and every one of those connections, especially in the early days when you've got, I suppose, the time to really engage and build that. It has to be authentic. That relationship has to be authentic. There's people
and
that
it takes time, doesn't it?
It does take time. Yeah, absolutely. There's a really fantastic book that I just read for the second time by a social media guru, we'll call him, from the States. You've probably read it, Carlos. Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. I think it's #1 bestseller at the minute. And it's literally about jab, jab, jab. It is, 3 jabs of great content versus one piece of, I suppose a sales, a right hook post, a sales post. And you really have to have that jab, that dance, that romance before you ask them to do anything, And just by having a really good Twitter bio and a link to your music, that can be enough, for them to go exploring. And that's what we love to do on the internet. We love to discover and explore and go on our own journey, and find content, whether that's music or whatever it might be, that resonates with us. And, just pushing it in front of people is going to get you nowhere.
It's not attractive either. I mean, it's rude. And it would be like if a guy walked up to me in a bar and said, hey, let's fuck. Really? Yeah. I equate it to the same kind of thing. I'm just going to ignore it and just walk off. And I do the same thing on Twitter. Carlos, tell me how we find fans on Twitter. How do we look to find people that we want to have an authentic engagement with? How do we find our people on Twitter?
Yeah, the way you want to find people, especially, well, I mean, I guess all these concepts go across all the social media, but Twitter is one of the easiest and best ways to do that because you know who your audience is for the most part, and a good way to start figuring out who your audience is to decide, who would you like to open for? If there were no issues stopping you, and you could pick any bands. Actually, let's pick 20 or 30 bands that you would like to open for because you would like to get in front of their audience, and you know that they would be receptive to you and relate to you, and that would work for you. Twitter really easily categorizes that by profiles. Just look up those 20 or 30 bands that you would like to get in front of their fans, and there you have access to them. They've got a whole list of their followers, so you know that everyone that's following those bands, those are the people that you want to target. You know, you don't want to go to a band that's completely different from you. And Twitter makes it really easy to just organize that, find who you want to get in front of, and then go follow them. There's a statistic. It's a statistical fact how Twitter works. Between like 40 and 60% are going to follow you back. Once they do that, that's when you have the opportunity to open up that conversation and start building a relationship. And as Leah said, you don't want to do it by asking them to fuck right away. You want to ask them a question. You want to get to know them. Hi, nice to meet you. How you doing? What are you into? Do you like this band we both follow? You know, a couple exchanges like that. You know, couple whiskey sours later, and then maybe you can get to bed.
You need to do a little bit more than that to get me into bed, but we'll leave it there. Probably dinner first, at least. But
right. But the bottom line is, especially with Twitter, you can find out where your target audience is real easily, get in front of them, and strike up conversations. It's almost like being in the crowd at a show, watching that band that you both love, and bumping into a stranger and just starting up a conversation. It's just as easy as that. It's just all done online, really.
And being authentic is totally key. Wouldn't you agree, Jake?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, I think there's some really great examples of that, but my favourite, and I know you would agree, Lee, is Amanda Palmer. And the way that she carries herself on socials, and she has that relationship, and she's really a shining example. And there are many others, some that have had the success that she has, some more, some less. But, you know, I think that authenticity is something that gets so easily lost. And we work with a lot of bands who I suppose haven't really found their voice yet, you know, and I think it's harder when you are a band too, because whose voice is it, you know, especially if it's a young band, they haven't really developed that, you know, a voice that carries across the group yet, because they're still individuals kind of coming together. But even some solo artists, you know, you find that they've got, you know, a bit of a split personality, I suppose, in the sense that, you know, you hang out with them and go for a beer or a coffee, and they portray themselves one way, but then you put them in front of an audience and they're completely different. So I think it takes time to really find your voice and just let go and be free on socials, be naked and just go with it, you know.
It's the perfect platform to do that. That leads us to a great discussion about what language do different social platforms use, and they all have very different social languages. Do you want to talk to that a little bit, Jake? Because you and I have had loads of conversations about that.
Yeah, about the language of each platform, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Twitter is what it is. It's a micro-blogging platform. You know, it's really easy to have a two-way conversation. You know, you've got your really visual-based platforms like Pinterest and Instagram. And we can go into more of these in more detail, but they're so visual, you know. And then you've got Vine and your kind of micro video platforms, which again, and the point is that every single one of these social networks has a very, very unique language. Is probably the best way to put it. How you would communicate on Twitter is versely different to, say, Facebook or Instagram. And I think it's really important for an artist to spend time on each platform and get to know each platform and work out what that kind of native language is. And that might sound like hard work and a pain, but you'll start to resonate with 2 or 3 platforms, and that's perfectly okay. I honestly don't believe you have to be everywhere, and especially not all at the same time, and definitely not immediately anyway. So find the platforms that you enjoy and you like, and you want to be active, and really commit to it, and don't take on something else until you understand it, and you know, I suppose are ready to speak that language.
You raise a really interesting point about how many platforms you should be across. I remember when social media started evolving, I felt like I had to be everywhere. And every week a new social platform was popping up, and you just felt like you had to be a part of it. And the overwhelm was disgustingly stressful. Carlos, how do you approach that with your artists? What do you advise them with regards to their approach to how many social platforms they should be approaching?
Yeah, that's a big deal, and that's one of the reasons why so many musicians are failing at social media, is because they feel that overwhelm and that need to be everywhere at once. So they'll do things like connect all their, Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus, so that one update sends the exact same piece of content to all three of them, which defeats the purpose. As you were saying earlier, each platform has its own language and its own way of being and style of interacting, so you don't want to be putting the same thing on every single platform. But you feel so overwhelmed by the need to be everywhere that you kind of automate it like that, and that destroys the organicness, the being genuine with your fans and building that relationship. So really what you need to do, if you feel the impulse to open up a profile on whatever platform, go ahead, tinker with it here and there, but just take on one platform at a time. Figure out what resonates with you, really focus on it, really get your groove on it, and get it to where you're comfortable with that. And then once you've mastered one that really represents your brand and your style and helps you communicate with your fans, and you do well at it, then move on to a next one. So really just focus on one until you master it, and then figure out what the next right step is for you and start working on that strategy. Ultimately, 2, 3, 4 tops is really all you need to reach enough segments of your fan to really do what you need to do and not feel overwhelmed. But just figure out one at a time and work with that.
How many artists have you met that were happy to be that patient?
That were happy to be that patient?
Yeah.
That patience in artists is tough to come by, and that actually kind of brings up something I was thinking about earlier, which is why social media is so anti-tuitional for musicians. Patience isn't a virtue, especially isn't a virtue they have a lot, especially touring musicians that go from one city to the next night after night. You don't have time to build that relationship. You don't have time for this and that. There's just never enough time for anything. But with social media, what you can do is create that time, or use that time that's already there, because you can continue that communication. You can start the communication before you get to the show. You can continue it after you get to the show. So really, the biggest thing I say to musicians that are overwhelming themselves with their own rush is just step back, take a breath, go one step at a time, and email me whenever you have any questions. But you've got the time to take it slow now that we've got the access to your fans on the internet. You don't have to do that whole relationship in 4 hours like you would in one night in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, I love that. Because I think, excuse me, I think that artists are still hungry to get famous really quickly. And they think that if I get across all this social media stuff, it's just going to happen that much quicker. And that's nothing's changed from 5 years ago. It's still not going to be that immediate. It takes a lot of work to build that relationship and to start the momentum happening. I know that, Jake, you spent a lot of time when you were bringing Baby Animals back to the scene. You spent a lot of time accessing their fan base. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, look, that's a unique story, because obviously the Baby Animals, a very popular Australian rock band from the 90s. We put out their first record in 20 years. So their first album sold over 1 million units. I can't remember what the figure is, but it was really successful. So we knew that they had a lot of fans out there. Suze is obviously rock and roll royalty and an icon in this country. So we knew that the fans were out there. We had to go looking for them, and we knew that Facebook was the obvious place to start. So we put together a really solid 6 I think it was actually a 9-month strategy, and executed that meticulously and built that audience and re-engaged. And, you know, we were lucky because we had so much great content to work with, because, you know, we had their performances, you know, from '92 when they were on Letterman, and you know, all sorts of stuff. There was so much great content online, both videos and photos. So we had a lot to work with. Plus, we also had a lot of new content that we were making day in, day out while they were kind of making the record, pre-production, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, for us, it was really all about reconnecting with their old fans and really bringing that fan base kind of back together and finding those super fans, and encouraging them to participate, I suppose, and do a lot of the word of mouth for us. And, you know, it was really successful. The album debuted at number 19. And I don't know how many shows they played, you know, in the last 18 months, but a lot. So, you know, it's worked really well. And I think, you know, social is a great platform for all artists, not just new artists or not just EDM artists or pop artists, but, you know, your classic rock artists and your adult contemporary artists and, you know, country, etc. And sometimes the more niche you are, sometimes the easier it is too.
That's a really important thing to grasp, the idea that if you know who your audience are, social media is a gift to you, because you can just go find them and start connecting with them and building a relationship with them. And people of different niches tend to cluster around a social network. You'll find nerds on G+. You'll tend to find those nerds not on Facebook. That's not that Facebook doesn't do that kind of thing. It's just it's just not where they cluster. Let's talk now about that. Let's talk about the different platforms and exactly what their purpose is and why people use them. Carlos, pick a platform and start talking to us about it.
Well, I already talked about, I guess, kind of how I feel about Twitter. So the other thing I really like is Facebook, to tell you the truth. It's got a very different purpose. It's not a place where you're going to meet a lot of new people and start those conversations. Facebook kind of regulates it that way. But it is a place where you're going to find out more about who your fans are. You know, people that already know you or are looking for you, that saw your show or heard about you. A lot of times the first place they're going to look for you is Facebook. And once they've liked your page, then you can start learning about who they are. You can use the graph search to, you know, search, you know, interests of people that like my band name, you know, things like that. And you can actually find out demographic information. You can find out when they're online. You can find out what their interests are. You can find out what other bands they like, you know, what other activities they like, all kinds of stuff about your fans that are going to help you connect with them on a deeper level. So I really like Facebook as a way to, well, the business term would be to do market research, but really it's to find out more about this group of people that you're courting and building that relationship and how to get deeper into their hearts.
Jake, how do you use Facebook with your bands and personally?
You know, I suppose it depends on who the act is, who the band is, or the artist. But Facebook is by far, you know, the dominant social network. Almost everybody is there. So it's a really good platform. I suppose it's a great hub. I think also the Facebook ad platform is fantastic, particularly if you know how to use it. And it's really effective. So my personal favorite network is definitely Facebook. You know, but I think there's been a lot of changes to Facebook, I suppose, over the last, I think particularly the last 12 months, just insofar as, you know, their algorithm and what content, you know, what I suppose native content is working and what's not working, and it's all still trial and error. It probably always will be. But I think, you know, Facebook is also the easiest platform for an artist to build that audience. It's a great, you know, first place to be, and definitely, you know, should be the key social network, definitely.
With regards to the challenges, we're hearing a lot of artists say that it's just getting so frustrating with posts and getting reach. And Carlos, you and I spoke about that this week, the idea that you'd need to spend money on Facebook. And if you know how to spend it properly, you can actually get you can make that money back. That's what you said to me. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the biggest frustrations people have with Facebook is that they want you to spend money. But, you know, one thing to note is that it's not as much money as you might think. You know, I have about 1,200 likes on my Facebook page, and if I have a post that does well and I want it to get to all of them instead of the 50 or 60 that it gets to, I put $1 a day for 5 days. So that's $5 into boosting it or turning it into a post ad, and it'll reach pretty much all of my fan base. So A, as far as that goes, as far as just reaching the fans that are already on there, it doesn't cost that much. But B, if you have a good sales funnel set up, if you've got your website set up with a squeeze page, it's going to get those email addresses, and you have you know, automated emails that go out over a period of time and offer your new fans a discount on your album or some sort of cool deal, and you know how much money you're going to make from that. You can actually, you know, once you have traffic flowing, you can predict how much money you're going to make from how many people that sign up. From there, you can take all this demographic information that you've learned from Facebook and start putting some money into Facebook ads, targeting that demographic, getting those people to go look at your squeeze page, sign up for your email list, and once you know how much money you're making for each subscriber that comes in, you know, you can figure out how much you can spend on ads and still make your money back once you know what your conversion rate is on your ads a little bit. So you can just play with a little bit of money, figure out, you know, who you really need to target, who's converting well on your squeeze page, and from there you can just kind of play it out. It's almost like a video game. You keep putting quarters in and getting 50-cent pieces out as long as you're targeting the right people, and all those people are accessible through Facebook. So you can really, even though it costs money to really get the engagement you want on Facebook, if you have a good plan in doing that, you can make that money back and then some very easily. It won't hurt at all spending that money.
There's a whole bunch of artists that are watching this whose heads just blew off when you said words like sales funnel and squeeze page and all the other marketing chat that you just said. It's important for artists to start thinking like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I usually try to simplify my language a little bit, so I got a little excied there.
No, not at all. I think it's important. You and Jake are both marketing guys, so this is totally the way that you should be talking.
So yeah, let me just clarify a little bit for the artists out there that are new to the whole business concept of this. But basically, one of the main purposes of social media in general is to generate traffic for your squeeze page, which means it's to meet people and get them to click on a link that sends them to a page on your website, which is the squeeze page is a page with the sole purpose of getting someone to give you their email address. The best way to do that is trade them for some free downloads, some free songs, some free videos. A lot of my artists, most of them I work with on putting together a digital bundle, I call it. It'll have some videos, some songs, some put in some PDF art, others have written books that they'll share parts of, or whatever you've got that's your artistic expression that you can put in digital format. Put together an awesome welcome package for your brand new fan, call it a digital bundle, advertise that, put that on your squeeze page. Hey, here's some stuff about me, but here's a bunch of stuff for you. Give me your email address and you can have it. And then from there, what the sales funnel I referred to is a series of automated emails that goes out over a predetermined amount of time. So the first email, once someone signs up for your email or for your list, sends them their freebie, their bundle, welcomes them to your community, and asks them your opinion. Hey, once you check that out, let me know what you think of it. It opens up that conversation. From there, you want to send over the next little bit another couple emails, not promotional emails. Don't try to get them in bed right away, but send them more about your story. Write a blog post about your backstory, something about your musical journey, something personal. Open yourself up to them and give them an opportunity to respond to any of that and start a conversation with you. And really, that's when you start to really solidify that relationship. And since you've got their email address, you'll be able to continue that relationship. And don't worry about feeling like you're being shady or anything like that, asking for an email address. I know a lot of artists I've heard of have said, well, I think that asking for that email address for my free music it cheapens it. You know what? The truth is, if someone likes you and they like your music, they want to stay in contact with you. They want to see what you're up to. They want to learn more about you. I think not offering them the opportunity to keep in touch with you is what cheapens it. So, I mean, that's what I normally tell them, and hopefully that'll change their perspective a little bit. But if people like you, they want to keep in touch with you, and don't think that it's, you know, if you're not using the email address as a purely selling tool, then you're giving them value. You're not doing what you think would cheapen it, because a lot of people think that once they have those people on their email list, all they're going to be doing is trying to sell, sell, sell. If you approach it that way, yeah, it cheapens it, and it's the wrong way to go. But if you use that email list to deepen the relationship, share stories, share updates, give them the opportunity to communicate with you, we call that a feedback loop. So anytime you send out an email, give them an opportunity to respond. You know, hey, ask them what you think about this, or what they think about that. You know, ask them to comment on your video. Give them not just the opportunity, but invite them to respond to you. Once you've sent out a couple emails like that, then you can say, oh, hey, you know, it's great to have you as a new fan. We're getting to know each other. I want to offer you this discount on my album, or let me give you both of my albums for a price of one. And an important part of that is making it a limited time offer. I know it's an generations old sales tactic, but it's true. You know, if people like you and they're on the fence, and you can say, well, instead of, you know, how about if you buy this album, I just give you the other one for free. That's going to get a lot of people off the fence, and it does give them that extra value, so there's no reason to feel bad about it. And you know, an important part of that is to actually make sure that it's a limited time offer is real. Make sure that that's not just something that's up on your page that's always available. That's what would cheapen it, lying to them. But if you give them that opportunity, you know, let them know that it's available for a limited time, and then make sure that that's true, you're going to get a predictable number of fans that actually buy that. And from there, just continue that process. You know, send out actual emails that aren't pre-written. Of course, the other ones are pre-written, the first 5 or 6 or whatever for that sales funnel, but you write them in a one-on-one tone. Write them as you're talking. Think about you're standing in a bar after a show and talking to a fan you just met, and you're having that one-on-one conversation. Don't think about sending it out to your list. Hey, you're my list, you're my group of fans. Say, hey, you are my fan. You are the person that I'm talking to. So think of it as a one-on-one conversation. So from that initial sales funnel, just send out emails once a month, twice a month. It'll take you a while to figure out what rhythm works best. Some bands and fans want to interact, you know, every week. Others once a month is fine. And, you know, just make sure it's when you have something relevant to say, something good to say, and don't try to sell every time. You know, try to deepen that connection every time. And every once in a while, by every 5th or 6th email, you know, or every 2nd or 3rd month, then you can put up an offer. And you'll find that people are more, once they have that relationship with you, they're more excited about supporting you because they're your friend and they want to see you succeed. And what you're giving them is of great value, and you have established that relationship by taking that time that we seem to try to forego, you know, normally. So I kind of went a little further than I meant to on that explanation, but I kind of want to take you through to how that continues once you've got them on your email list and get them through that initial sales funnel. From there, continue with the relationship building, and that will continue to feed your career for the rest of your life, and it'll just keep building and building.
Jake, I know that you're a massive fan of mailing lists.
Oh, I love email marketing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Your eyes just lit up. Oh, I love email marketing. Talk to us some more about, you know, do you resonate with what Carlos was saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, you know, it's kind of age-old internet marketing, but remodeled for music, I guess. And it works. That's the thing. It works. It's proven. So it's, you know, I think that particular model is particularly useful for independent artists who are, you know, starting out, or, you know, first, second, third album as they start to establish themselves to really build that audience. And collecting email addresses Carlos, you're right. A lot of artists kind of have a bit of a thing about it, which is crazy because really, who else is going to sell you music if you don't? You know,
Yeah.
you can't rely on a sustainable career from iTunes alone. There are exceptions to that. There always are. Or from streaming. Bricks and mortar retailers, if they still exist, they're few and far between. I think we've got more bricks and mortar music retailers in Australia than in the US.
Yes.
So that says something. So you've got to be able to sell directly to your fan, and there's a number of different ways to approach it. But collecting email addresses is the key, and I think building that database is something that so many artists just don't do or don't do well. And if any time an artist asks me for advice or what's one thing that I've got to do, the answer is always build your mailing list. Make sure every show you're collecting email addresses. And it sounds so simple and obvious, but email converts. Simple as that.
Yep. And this is a great time for me to go on a little rant about who are the artists that should be doing music business and who are the artists that shouldn't be doing music business. If this all sounds really hard for you and it sounds like it's too much effort, and collecting mailing addresses and setting up a MailChimp account or whatever platform you use and doing that whole sales funnel thing and, et cetera, everything that Carlos was talking about, if that all sounds really hard, you should not be in music business. It's plain as that, and we really do need people to start asking themselves that question. Should I be an artist that is in music business? Should I be a music entrepreneur, or shouldn't I? Because this is really fucking hard work, and if you're not prepared to put in the work that's required to do this, do yourself a favor and jump off the boat now and do music for a hobby, but you're just going to, it's going to be really painful for you to do these things like set up mailing lists and start campaigns and do all that kind of thing if your heart's not in it. You need to be an entrepreneur to be able to be successful in music these days. And if you're not hungry for that, if you don't see it like a video game like Carlos was talking about, then maybe rethink whether this game is for you. If you're the kind of person that's tweeting people the first second that you meet them, here, have a free download, that's not building relationships. That's not the point of why you're an artist. We're here as artists to stimulate a cultural conversation, to build relationships and to start people thinking about things. You're not doing that if you shove your music in front of someone and then don't back that up with a whole business strategy. So, rant over. Let's talk about YouTube. Carlos, tell me, do you think that YouTube is a social platform?
Absolutely, and a lot of people don't treat it that way, and that's one of the biggest problems. A lot of musicians I know, they just put their videos up every now and again. They'll pay for some views, maybe try to put some ads on it to get people to watch it or whatever, and think that that's what it takes. But YouTube, as far as I know, is still the #1 or #2 music discovery platform out there. That's where people are finding music, and which a lot of people don't realize is it is a social media platform. You need to interact with the people on there. You need to look at channels other than just your own. If you're going to be successful on YouTube, you have to be more than just a content provider. You have to be a YouTube user. You have to be the kind of person that sits there for an hour a day just scrolling through videos that you like. I mean, you should enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you're in the wrong place. You have to enjoy it. You have to get involved. You need to comment. You need to respond to comments that people put on your videos. You need to reach out to people that are putting out videos that you like. It's a great way to put links to get traffic that people don't realize. Let's say you did a cover of an Adele song, that you really like. Adele gets lots and lots and lots of views. If you find an opportunity on her channel to put a link to your video cover of hers, where it's not purely promotional, where it's actually just because you're part of the community and part of the conversation, you have the opportunity to say, oh, well, I just did a cover of this song that we're watching the video here. If you want to see my version, here's the link. You know, if there's a couple million people looking at her video, scrolling through the links while scrolling through the comments while they do that, that's just going to automatically send a bunch of traffic your way. But in order to do that successfully, you have to be part of that community and build those relationships and your standing within that community legitimately. So it's very much a social platform, but a lot of, I might even say most of the users on there don't actually use it that way. But if you start using it as a social platform, you'll multiply your success there by a lot.
You remind me of like a few years ago in my career when I was trying to figure out, and I'm going to reveal a little bit about my mindset here. When all this social stuff started coming out, I was like, but is it actually cool to respond to a comment on YouTube? Because at the time I was being considered for the Twilight soundtrack, and there was a shit ton of traffic coming through my YouTube channel. And there was, you know, Twi fans are interesting in their approach to the way that they comment about things. They're very passionate. They will tell you, I fucking hate you, or they'll tell you, I fucking love you. And at the time I was like, oh, I'm not going to respond to any of this because, you know, that would seem, I'd be uncool as an artist if I started responding to any of the stuff on YouTube. And I think that there's a lot of that with artists, this idea of, well, I'm an artist, I shouldn't be seen, I'm lowering myself if I'm engaging. Jake, talk to us about that. Talk to us about commenting through different platforms like YouTube, because there's Jack Conte is a guy I'm a big fan of, and I constantly see in his G+ thread that he's commenting all over YouTube about stuff, and I found that really really interesting because it's Jack Conte. You know, he's going and watching YouTube videos and commenting, telling people how fabulous they are, etc., etc., and that was a whole different mindset for me. Talk to me about why that's important on YouTube or anywhere.
Look, that's what I was going to say. It's important anywhere, and Carlos is right. It's you see it less and less on YouTube compared to anywhere else. I don't know why that is, because it's a great social network. It's a great platform. You can have a conversation there, and it puzzles me that more artists don't spend more time on there actually participating. And that's what it comes back to. You know, you've got to participate. You've got to be a part of the conversation. You've got to join conversations. You've got to start conversations. You've got to build those relationships. You've got to engage, or else it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. You either participate or just don't bother.
Yep. It's definitely, after I saw Jack doing that, I'm like, oh, that's important. He would be getting so much more engagement from it. And it showed me another thing that was important, was that everything he did on YouTube was showing up in my feed through his G+ channel.
Yep.
So let's talk about Google+. Let's talk about Google, actually, and their role in music and in social media and how that works. So for anyone who doesn't know, Google owns Google+ and they own YouTube. And now those two platforms are connected. Google has also bought, YouTube is also now opening up a streaming service. So I wish I knew a lot more about that. It's a little hard to understand what's going to happen with that, and we are going to have a special episode of the Music Spring on that when we can find the right people. But let's talk about G+, because I don't know very many artists that are using it or maximizing its benefits, and it has a whole bunch to offer us as a community, as an industry, with regards to another buzzword, which is search engine optimization. Who wants to talk about all of those things? Who wants to start?
I got a couple things to say about Google+.
Yeah, go for it, Carlos.
Now I'm fairly novice to Google+. It's one that I've dabbled in and kept up with, you know, as much as I can as it's been developing. But I can tell you this much: Google pretty much controls the internet. So
Yeah.
you got to assume that the social media platform that they put out is going to help your actual website get found a lot easier. It's going to help with rankings. And B, they've got their fingers in everything. So, you know, you kind of want to be a part of that. And especially now with all the social media platforms that have come out, those that have figured it out first have had a great advantage and a great success. And Google Plus is one of those that people are really now just starting to figure out. So if you get involved with that now, you've got an opportunity to have a really strong advantage just by being early on this social media, on this particular platform. You know, one of the things I like it for is every time I get a confirmation message that someone's joined my email list, I can automatically add them to a circle. I can't automatically add them to liking my Facebook page or my Twitter stream or follow my YouTube channel, but I click right when I open up the email in my Gmail account, I can just click a button and add them to the Schwuly Family, you know, Google Plus circle. And then when I share content, I can just share it with that circle. You know, that gives me another opportunity. It kind of counteracts the lack of reach that I get on Facebook, because it gives me a whole nother opportunity to connect with all those same people, and even more, and even with my email list. Not everyone opens my emails, but if I send that you know, same or similar or adjusted content and share it with that Google Plus circle, that just gives me a whole nother opportunity to reach all of those people, and Google Plus makes that part really easy. So I see that going really far, and with the like what we're doing right here with the video conferencing that they have going on, that can, you know, I've known people that use this platform for online performances and you know, have a better time with it than some of the other paid ones. So Google Plus has got their fingers in, or Google in general, it pretty much controls the internet and has their fingers in everything. So it's definitely a platform that you want to get involved with, even if you're not sure exactly how to work it or where it's going yet. The boat that most of us are in right now, start playing with it now. Maybe you'll be the one that figures out the key that really gets some of that overnight success that you get with a brand new platform that's not going to be available later. So, you know, that's why it's definitely something you should be involved with.
And anyone who wants to see an example of an artist that is absolutely killing it on Google+, Jake actually put me onto her. Daria Musk is doing outstanding things on Google+. Isn't she, Jake? She's just doing amazing.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've looked into it, but she was the first artist, I think, to do a hangout on Plus, is that right? And built this massive audience on that platform, and I think, you know, you kind of compare Facebook and Google Plus, and you know, with Facebook the honeymoon period's kind of over. We're committed to it. We're married. We're there. But Google Plus is still really romantic, and it is in a honeymoon period. And I think the users on there, those that are actively participating, and there's 400 million of them now, are actually really happy to be there, and there's really great conversations going on. I mean, I look at a comment thread on Facebook, and it's just so top level, and then you'll have a look at a similar themed conversation on Google Plus, and it's deep and meaningful.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. If you want to have sorry, say that again.
Compared to deep and meaningless.
Meaningless, exactly. And Google Plus is the place to have deeper conversations. Like if you want to talk about the meanings behind your music and things like that, people give a shit on Google+. If you want to have conversations about astrophysics and whatnot, the people who you'll find on Google+ will be able to have those conversations. My music is geared towards consciousness and connectedness with yourself and emotional stuff. So Google+ is a place that I find people who want to talk about those things. Not so much on Facebook, not so much on Twitter. They want to have quick conversations that are wham bam, thank you ma'am, and let's go. Whereas the way that Daria does it, because there are no limitations on the reach that she has, she posts something to her circles or to certain people in her circles, and it emails them and tells them that she's posted something. I mean, this is just it's a platform that we really need as an industry to start tapping into. If she has a Google a Hangout, if you schedule an event on Google+, much like we do with the Music Spring, if you schedule it within 2 weeks, the day before the event happens, it actually emails the person and reminds them that this event is happening in 24 hours. this technology is fantastic. It's great, and we're just, as an industry, we're not using it enough. We're not bringing our people onto the platform either. So I think it's definitely something that we should start thinking about creating a push for amongst the artists that we do work with and that we do talk to. I think it's just undervalued. And very quickly, search engine optimization. Jake, do you want to talk about search engine optimization?
Yeah, well, I suppose, if you don't know what search engine optimization is, I guess it's really about manipulating the algorithm of the search engines in order to come up, as high as possible, which can be kind of easy or incredibly difficult depending on the name of your band or yourself, if you're a solo artist. We touched on this before the show started, right? So working with a band, and the record company, a major record company, wanted to change the name of the band. They were a debut artist, and we kind of all agreed to do it, stupidly. And the record company came up with a name which was actually the name of a country, a popular country, So it was impossible to build a discovery campaign. What was impossible? It was really difficult and counterproductive to build a discovery campaign online, because when people searched for it after hearing about it, hearing about the band somewhere, they just couldn't find anything. And Google Plus was actually really pivotal in turning that around in the early stages. But it was really difficult. But search engine optimization is incredibly important. When when a fan types your name or the name of your band or song or whatever into Google or Bing or Yahoo, you want to be there. You want to be among the first results, and you want to capture that traffic. It's really important.
And posting on platforms that Google own, like Google Plus, like YouTube, they have a vested interest in pushing your content up. Your goal is to get on the first page of a search for a keyword that you put in. Spending time on Google Plus and on YouTube is actually going to push your content up. They've come out and said it. It will rank, and it will help your SEO, search engine optimization. We have a couple of minutes left, and I do want to address a question that I was emailed, and it comes in two parts. So I'm going to start with you, Carlos. Why do people in the industry, how and why are people in the industry finding of benefit, if at all, Tumblr, Pinterest, and Google+? Now, we've covered Google+. What's your perspective on Tumblr? I know that you spend a lot of time building websites for people and optimizing those websites. So how do you find that? And where does Tumblr fit into all of that? Because I know artists who choose a Tumblr over a website.
Yeah, Tumblr is a pretty good all-inclusive website. A great, if you want to see a musician that's successful because of Tumblr, look at Ryan McLemore. Pretty sure he's out of Seattle. But, I mean, he attributes most of his success to Tumblr. And it's good because it's kind of an all-inclusive platform. You can kind of pretty much build your own website and blog and do a lot of the same stuff, and it makes it all easily shareable. Now, I do the same thing with the WordPress websites I build. It just takes me putting in a bunch of plugins and stuff to make give it the functionality I want. But Tumblr has a lot of that already built in. So that's why it's a really good platform to use, is mainly because it helps you create and share content kind of intrinsically within the platform.
And it has a totally different language to what your website would be used for, right?
It's pretty customizable. You can do it. I mean, you can do the same sorts of things that you would do with the website, or you can do the same sorts of things that you would even do with Pinterest or Facebook. Creating sorts of streams and building fan bases, or you can set it up simply with with just a type of squeeze page and some songs or whatever. So okay. It's a really diverse platform for those that don't have a lot of the technical knowledge to create it with other tools.
And is that its main benefit, the fact that it's easy to use and it's a connected kind of website?
Yeah, it's easy to use, and it's high, and it helps you create shareable content. And that's something I wanted to mention earlier. Anyway, is that one of the biggest and most important factors is to create engagement, create content that's shareable, that's interesting, and that people want to share, and it's easy for them to share. So since that is one of the biggest factors to success, and that's one of the things that Tumblr mainly focuses on. That's one of the reasons why you can really get a lot of benefit from using Tumblr.
You raised something that I also wanted to talk about, and I think we have to talk about it, is the life cycle of content, which is really important to this conversation, even though we only have a couple of minutes left. Jake, talk to us about the life cycle of content today.
Well, the life cycle of content can be 15 seconds or 15 minutes.
Yep.
You know, I think in order to engage and use social effectively, it's all about content. And again, each platform has its own different types of native content. Tumblr, and I think now Google Plus, you know, you've got your animated GIFs. Instagram, you've got your photos and your 15-second videos. Twitter, obviously, etc. You know, you've got 140 characters to get your content out there. So there's this need to be creating as much content, you know, as you possibly can, and pushing that content out. But what's really important is to build a strategy around that content so that you don't drown in it. I think there's a real, artists are always on the road, or they're making music, or they're always doing something. You know, artists are busy people, so that content can be really personal, and you can do it yourself, and you can get creative with it. You know, there's this band called the Dead Daisies, who are kind of made up of John Stevens from Australia and a few other amazing musicians. They're a rock band, and their fans really resonated with their branding, which was, like a skull and crossbones. So they find all this amazing content around that and push it out, and it goes absolutely wild. Their fans love it. That resonates, that works. So they're repurposing other content. So find something that works, find your thing, but you do have to be making a lot of content. It's content driven. Everything's content driven.
Yeah.
And just to kind of expand on the idea of the content life cycle and content production, is that the sharing of content extends its life cycle. So that's why you want to make sure you're not just pushing content out there to push it out there. You want to make sure it's good stuff that people want to share. And putting that extra time and effort into making sure that the content you create is share-worthy, and that you have the tools set up to make it easily shareable, is going to make a huge difference in the impact that your content has and the success that it'll bring you.
And can content fail, Carlos?
Absolutely.
Jake, yeah?
Yeah. If it just falls into the abyss, that's one way that it can fail. If no one ever sees it, that's a way that it's failed, and it may not be the content's fault. You may just not have put it where it can be found. And another way it can fail is if the content undermines your branding. If you're putting something out there that detracts from the branding and the image and the community that you're building, then I would consider that a fail as well.
Or if you're if you have a jealous ex-girlfriend who grabs your phone and posts some naked photos of you, that could be content failing.
Yes, make sure to change your password every time you change girlfriends.
Yeah. Or it could be really successful.
It could be. There was a senator that did that in the US, wasn't there? His girlfriend got his phone and she posted a picture of his Shwili on there. Anyway.
Hey, you're messing with my Shwili brand by using that statement there.
Dude, I have a problem every time I go to type your name, Captain Shwili. It's a problem for me. Sorry. Just to get to the second part of Lizzie's question, is YouTube considered a strong social medium, and how have things changed with Facebook? I think we've definitely covered the YouTube one. And how have things changed with Facebook? Jake?
Lots has changed with Facebook. It always, and I guess it always is. So I think some of the key things for me are the algorithm and really figuring that out insofar as the reach of your posts. And that comes down to what you post and how you post it and when you post it. The beautiful thing about Facebook is it does give you a pretty good dashboard with a lot of great insights in it. So you can start to figure out, the what, why, when, hows, etc. Things like embedding YouTube videos on Facebook we're finding really aren't working compared to actually uploading it natively into the Facebook video platform, which sounds obvious, and it is, but a lot of people are still pushing out YouTube videos, and that can work. Still, it can work. It's a bit hit and miss. So I suppose there's just lots of little things like that. But like I said earlier, with Facebook and Google Plus, it's I suppose the honeymoon's over with Facebook. We're all there. Facebook is a business. The free lunch is over. Now we've got to really get to know how to maximise our reach on that platform and continue to engage the audience that we built. Maybe we paid to build it, maybe it was organic, probably a combination of both, but if we want to reach them, we're going to have to pay for it. So the game now is putting out content, great content, that is going to get shared, because if people share it, your reach goes up, your engagement goes up. When you put out something that is more music focused, whether that's a link to iTunes or whatever it might be, it's going to reach more of those fans without having to boost it, as much as previously, I guess.
Yeah, nice. That makes a lot of sense. And Lizzie, I hope we've covered all your questions there. There is probably 4 more hours we could keep talking about this conversation and still not cover everything that we need to cover about social media. But I'm sure we'll have you guys back to continue this conversation, because it was amazing. I will ask you, now both of you have been on before this season, so you've had the usual question. So I decided to change it for you two this time, and you have been given forewarning. So today's question is, what opportunity did you turn down that you hope represents itself? Carlos, I'm going to start with you.
I've been thinking about this question, trying to come up with an answer, and what I realized, and I kind of like to turn the tables on it a little bit, is that I would like to definitely be represented some opportunities, but I can't really think of any that I've ever turned down. My problem is that I've jumped at almost every opportunity that has come my way, and there's definitely some that I would like to have a chance to turn down. And I think that speaks to one of the problems that is really detrimental to the industry right now. Is a lot of musicians out there, well, a lot of, let's say, promoters and venues and stuff out there that try to get musicians that want musicians to play for free, and they pitch by saying, well, this is your opportunity, to promote your music, so they want musicians to play just for the opportunity. And this is something that it keeps pay rates low for musicians, because there's musicians that will take them up on that. And I think it's important that people put a value on their work and on their art and stand behind it, because when they just allow themselves to be bullied into working for the opportunity to work, then that just gives the other guys leverage to pay you less. So, and I mean, my opportunity wasn't with that. What made me think of that was back when I was doing promoting and stuff. I promoted a show for Eric McFadden, and all he did, paid for hotel rooms, put together an after party, and I mean, it was just a horrible experience. It cost me a lot of money. And he was disrespectful and really took advantage of everything that I was doing, but he framed it as, oh, well, this is your opportunity to get a big name on your list of people you've promoted. So, I mean, that was done to me by a musician. But what I'm saying is, I mean, no one should allow other people to do that to them. Musicians shouldn't allow venues to do that to them. So, really, my whole thing is about, I would like to have some opportunities back to be able to turn them down instead of taking every opportunity, because if you want to create value for what you're doing, you have to be more conservative with the opportunities you decide to take.
I think that what you just said is fantastic. I often say that my career has been defined by the things that I said no to more than the things that I've said yes to. And I think as an industry, we need to be focusing on how do we create more value for our product. And by saying no a lot more is something that's going to help that along a lot. So I really appreciate you sharing that story. Thank you. Jake, what opportunity? Yeah. I was thinking about this with regards to you a lot. I don't know why. But what opportunity did you turn down that you hope represents itself?
Well, I could probably give you quite a few.
Yeah, I figured as much.
There's some that really hurt. As a marketer and a record company guy, there was a band, and this is all ego and fluff, but there was a band that I really loved, and 5 years ago had the opportunity to manage them, but turned them down for a good reason. And now they're so massive, it's just painful, really painful. But I love that for them. That's very shallow. But I think, I think probably the biggest opportunity that I had that I kind of turned down was about 5 years ago, and it was the opportunity to be part of a new record company. And I turned it down because I was stuck inside the major label system, which at the time was probably the right thing to do. And eventually I saw the light. And I'm not anti-major record companies at all, I've got to say. But I certainly prefer to be on the independent side. We still work with a major record company for our distribution and some marketing and stuff, and they're fantastic. But being at arm's length is just so much more romantic, definitely.
Yeah, totally. Keeps the mystery there, doesn't it?
But that was an opportunity that did represent itself, 18 months ago. But I kind of think, fuck, I wish we did that. I wish we started this 5 years ago,
Yeah. I wish you had started it 5 years ago.
Yeah. But, we're all impatient, aren't we? Entrepreneurs are just really impatient people. So sometimes you just got to go, okay, well, this is the destiny, this is the path, this is the way it's meant to unfold, and roll with the punches.
Guys, I feel like I'm the luckiest girl in the world because I get to talk to guys like you and women like you that are just passionate about what they do and really excited about the future of the music industry and want to help artists create value in our industry. And we are, over the next, it's a 10-year effort for people like us to transform this industry into something that is viable. And I have a lot of gratitude for what both of you are doing for artists, and thank you for coming on my show and giving so much information that artists can grow from. Thank you, Jake. It's a pleasure as always having you on.
Thank you.
And thank you, Carlos, and I promise not to make fun of your name ever again. It's such a pleasure. Captain Schwilly. Amazing. Peace, love, and peanut butter, guys.
Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode number 14 of The Music Spring. If you miss any of the episode, log on to YouTube after the show and watch this again. Check us out online. Search for The Music Spring on Facebook, Google+, YouTube, SoundCloud, or share on Twitter. # The Music Spring. To get involved, join the mailing list, or for more information on the presenters in this panel, log on to our website, themusicspring.com. The Music Spring is free and always will be, but if you like what we do and find the information informative, please consider supporting us on patreon.com/The Music Spring. Tune in next week as we present music genres and the EDM bubble. See you then.